We're frequently asked about the VPAT process. How do I get a VPAT or ACR? How does this all work? And so we're going to use the graphic on the screen with me to just go step by step through this process, starting with step one, define the scope. So this is going to be the scope for the accessibility audit, and we're going to use the audit report to fill in the VPAT. Now, the scope is also going to show in your accessibility conformance report. So remember that the VPAT is just the template. We're going to fill in and complete this template. Once we do, we have the resulting ACR. And when someone's asking you for a VPAT, what they're really asking you for is an accessibility conformance report, but it's understood. The two terms are used interchangeably in the marketplace. So just note that the final document is going to be an ACR, and in that ACR, it's going to include your scope. So you want to have a comprehensive scope because buyers are looking to make sure that they are getting the complete picture of your product or services accessibility. So the scope is very important, and we're going to help you come up with a representative sample of your digital asset. Oftentimes, it doesn't include all of the pages or screens because many of them are repeated or they are very similar to one another. So again, we're just looking for a representative scope, but we want that representative scope to be comprehensive. So we want to include all of the important templates, layouts, pages, or screens, etc. Bring forward any unique content. So first, we are going to define the scope. And then along with this, as step two, we are going to have the VPAT edition set. So what edition of the VPAT do you want to use? Most clients are going to go with the WCAG edition, but there are other editions. So there's section 508, there is the EU edition, and then there's also the INT edition, so the international edition, which is going to include all of the above. And we're also going to set the technical standards. So are you going with WCAG 2.1 AA? Is it 2.2 AA? Recently, I had a client request for 2.0 AA. So we're going to set that technical standard, and we're also going to set the environments. So are you just going to go with our default environments? So for a desktop-only audit, that is going to be Chrome browser, NVDA, and Windows desktop. Are you going to add our default mobile environment to that? So our default mobile environment is iOS, Safari browser, and VoiceOver screen reader. And you can add other environments to that. The point is that we want to set this so that we know exactly what is going to be included in the ACR and how we're going to conduct the audit. And then next, we're going to actually conduct the audit. So this is where we are going to thoroughly evaluate your digital asset for accessibility. In effect, what we are doing is we are grading against a technical standard. Now, oftentimes, in fact, almost all of the time, this is going to include the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Remember that we set that technical standard, but we could potentially also be grading against other technical standards. So remember, going back to the VPAT editions, those different editions are tied to different technical standards. So in some cases, we might include other technical standards besides just the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. But the point is that with the audit, we are thoroughly evaluating your digital asset for accessibility. Know that an audit is always manual. This is implicit. An audit is manual. Now, we may include an automated scan as a review, but we're never going to use the scan as the primary basis for the issue. So we're never going to copy and paste the scan results. We are going to make sure that we're only using a scan to make sure that we include any issues that are correctly flagged by a scan. So it's very important that the audit is manual. It's very important that it's comprehensive and thorough. You don't want a hybrid audit. What you want is a fully manual audit. And it is always good to see that a scan is used as a review, but again, it should be never used as a primary basis to find issues. Next, we are going to remediate. So your team is going to make the fixes based on the audit report. And this is obviously a crucial step. An audit is only going to find the issues. Now we need to fix the issues, and remediation is where we do that. So you're going to take the audit report and you're going to work through those issues one by one. And then that leads to the next step, step number 5, which is tracking. So you need to make sure that you are tracking the fixes, because we need to know how far we've progressed, what remains, what issues remain outstanding. And so this is where you would use a platform like Accessibility Tracker. Here you just upload your audit report. You can assign issues to different team members. You can change the status of each issue to fixed, to needs work, etc. And so you can work through and use that platform to organize your efforts, which leads to step 6, which is validation. So it's one thing to fix the issues, for your team to fix the issues. It's another to know that the issues have been resolved. And so this is where you're going to have validation, and you're going to have usually the auditor go back, look, and make sure that the issues that have been identified in the audit report have indeed been resolved. And so if you go through this process, then you're going to have a cleaner ACR. So you're ideally, optimally, you will reach full WCAG conformance. Sometimes there may be some issues that are outside of your control, or it's just practically difficult for you to remediate. And if that is the case, then there may be a few outstanding issues left. But either way, we're either going to reach a point of full conformance or your client satisfaction. So that is where validation comes into play. It is very important. Many people think of it as a second audit. It's not necessarily a second audit. Here, we're just re-examining the issues that were identified in the initial audit, and then we are going ahead and making sure that those issues have been resolved, or if they're not resolved, that at least they're accounted for. And then so that also goes back to the Accessibility Tracker platform, where you can actually mark an issue as validated, so you can know that that issue no longer exists and we can continue forward. And then step 7 is documentation. So this is now where we come back to the ACR. So now we can fill in and complete the VPAT, and then have less issues showing on that VPAT, on that ACR. Optimally, there will be no issues. Usually there are a few issues that remain outstanding, and a lot of times that's because of third-party integrations. So if you have a third-party integration in your digital, or that you're relying upon as a part of your experience for your digital app, then that can cause accessibility issues. And sometimes you just can't, you're not able to fix those issues. But this can not only be for documentation, this could not only be a VPAT or an ACR, this could also be a conformance statement, a provider certification. But that is step 7, is where we have documentation come into play. And at this point, you're really done. But what's highly recommended is that if you do need to go through this process again, that it's not as labor intensive. So you'd like to have training so that your team is not introducing new accessibility issues. You've got this state of accessibility for your digital asset. Optimally, you are fully conformant. So if you are, you don't want to introduce any new accessibility issues. So you want to train your team so that your team doesn't do so. So this can come in from the content side, the design side, or from the coding. So definitely your developer, you'd want to have training for, but also anyone else who is working on or contributing to your digital asset. Training is going to be very, very important. Now, one note on this process is that if you simply want an ACR issued immediately, you can do that. So we could go at step 3, we could go to the audit, and along with the audit report, issue an ACR. And so the ACR is simply going to reflect what is shown in the audit. Most clients are going to want the ACR issued after validation has occurred, so that they have less accessibility issues. This is going to be very helpful in the procurement process, because procurement agents are looking to they're probably looking at your state of accessibility, and that is weighing in on their decision on whether or not to make the purchase, or whether or not you continue on to the next round. So if accessibility is a concern, and it usually is, then you're going to want to have that ACR issued after validation. One thing that some of our clients opt for is to have the ACR issued both with the audit, so that they have the immediate ACR to move on to the next round of the procurement process. Usually, or not usually, but many times, we will see clients who need an ACR as soon as possible, because that is a part of the procurement process. And so they can't continue on until they have that. But then once they have that, they deliver that to the buyer, and then they continue working, so that as the buyer comes back to them and says, well, accessibility is a concern here, they can come up and they've likely got a new ACR to hand over to the buyer, so that they're going to be looked at more favorably, because obviously so much of this is about the actual accessibility of the digital asset. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the client just needs this as a part of the procurement process, and accessibility really isn't a concern on the part of the buyer. So sometimes it really is just a matter of having the document. And in that case, it may just be that at step 3, you go ahead and get that documentation. But for most clients, they want to go through this entire process. And so this is what it looks like. Even though I have 8 steps here, remember that for the actual documentation, it's only 7. And for many of these steps, we're really combining the steps. So with steps 1 and 2, this is all pre-audit. And so this is all taken care of early on. And 1 and 2 are usually, you can take whichever order you'd like here. You can go ahead and set the addition and the technical standard first, or you can define the scope first. And then when it comes to remediation and tracking, again, that's all done at the same time. And really, validation comes on right after that. So a lot of this just flows nicely together, but here are all the steps separated out. It's very simple and straightforward. And so if you need help with a VPAT or ACR, you can reach out to me at accessible.org. I will include a contact link in the description. I will also include a link to Accessibility Tracker, and that is our platform to make the audit process as streamlined as possible. One note with Accessibility Tracker, in December of 2025, so just in about 1 week, we will have a hybrid automation to creating an ACR. So what this means is that you will be able to automate filling in part of the VPAT, and then you will need to manually review it. But this, if you are issuing VPATs or if you are issuing ACRs in-house, and some clients do this because they have so many different digital assets, so they'll have an internal team working on accessibility, and then they will have their own self-issued ACRs. This will be very, very helpful in automating and speeding up that process. But again, you'll still need a manual review. But the point is that Accessibility Tracker is really a multi-purpose platform that really helps your team with accessibility, streamline the process, accelerate the process, finish projects faster. It's also got AI to help you with remediation. So even if your developers, designers, and content editors are new to accessibility, they can use AI. The AI will extract the data from your audit report and really help them with remediation and understanding exactly what to do. So I will include links to many resources in the description, but this is the process for filling in and completing a VPAT, and then ultimately receiving that accessibility conformance report.